Shalom, I'm Nama Ru,
I'm David Rue.
and we are continuing to cover the rabbinic prohibitions for agricultural practices for Jews living within the ancestral homeland during the seventh year of the 7-year cycle, which we call the Shmita year, when the land and the produce is ownerless. So we have to conduct ourselves especially in that way. So we've covered a lot of these already. Which one are we on now?
We're continuing Mashkin from last time, watering a field. And we saw there was a contradiction between two Mishnayos. One said that you can only water until Rosh Hashanah, and the other said that you can water at least certain types of fields, certain conditions, during the Shemitah year. In fact, that was a machlokas tanaim between Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Eli'ezer ben Ya'akov. So the Chaznish establishes some general principles for all the rabbinic prohibitions on Shmita, and he writes as follows: Velechén, במקום הפסד שימות כל העץ, or שיפסידו כל הפירות. So in the case of total loss, where the tree would die, or you would lose all the fruit, יש לסמוך להקל בכל אלה. One should be lenient in all of these cases. אך צריך לשקול כל עבודה ועבודה. But you have to make a measurement for each and every type of work, or repetition of the same work even. If there is a concern that the tree will die, Oser, and anything that's only for profit would be prohibited. If you could do it once, you can't do it twice. I'll get back to this in a second. And therefore, you have to do all of your weeding and your fertilizing before Rosh Hashanah of 57-52. This is when he was writing, 1952. So that you don't have to weed and fertilize on the Shemitah year. Even if it's not enough for the whole year. Anything that we can reduce, we must reduce. And anything that can be put off until after the Rosh Hashanah of 57-13, you're required to put this off and not do this on Shemitah year.
Okay.
Now, the Chaznish said that if you can do something once and not twice, it's better to do it once and you're prohibited to do it twice. This would imply, for instance, that if I can water a little bit longer, right, and water less often, that I am then obligated to water less often and each time for a longer period of time.
Okay.
Rav Nisim Karelet, the Chaznish's nephew, wants to define better what the Chaznish has said and, in a certain sense, limit it concerning watering. Here's what he writes. Nira be'ikr dina, it appears that the principal halacha, that for these fields that need watering, shemuter lashkos kedei tzarko below tzimtzum. It appears you can water it in the normal way without having to make any calculations at all. Because once the rabbis have established that these fields that are regularly watered in a normal year, it is a case of loss. And now the field is tzamei l'mayim, it's thirsty. Muter lashkosa, you're allowed to water it. Even though without this particular watering, it wouldn't lose that much. I don't have to judge each and every time I water. Once Chazal have established, he says, that watering this field is permitted, and otherwise it's a loss, then I don't have to examine in the same way this field as I would, or watering as I would other work.
Right. So that's why I can irrigate.
Yes, but we try and do it with by computer irrigation and so on, by a timer, and so that we don't actually have to go out and spray water in. Now, the Rav Karelitz continues, צריך לשקול בכל עבודה ועבודה, and what the Chazanish wrote, that I have to measure each and every act of work, if there's a concern that the tree will die if I don't do this, and I have to fertilize and weed before Shmita, so that I don't have to do any of these things on the Shmita year itself. Yesh Lomar, one can say, Shekach se ari rak b'shar Toldah. So this is only true of the other acts on Shmita. Aval b'melachas hashkaya, but concerning the malacha, the work of watering your field, b'mkom shechazal kavu shezeh metzav shel paseda. So in these fields, that the rabbis determined that this is a lost, not watering trees or a field that is generally watered regularly. Ein tzarich l'tzamtzem. We don't have to be exacting. The kol hasadeh tzmeya l'mayim, and the entire field is thirsty for water. Mutter lahashkos, so it's mutter to water it. Avol b'shar melachot shechazal lo kavu shem mitzav shel paseda. But in all the other things where they did not establish, here is a consideration of loss, here isn't. B'zei tzarich lishkol b'kol avoda v'avoda. In this you have to measure each and every act of work. Im hasadeh mitzav shel paseda. If I am going to have a significant loss here if I don't do this work on the Shmita.
But you have to be calculated about it?
Yes, the Chazanish said, and Rav Karelitz is saying, watering is different because we established that there are fields, and it's only for those fields. I mean, remember, if I have, according to the Rambam, a field that's larger than the base saw, 72 feet by 72 feet, and I have only 10 trees in it, I can only water the trees, and a little bit in between, I can't just water the whole field. Whereas if I have 10 trees in 72 feet by 72 feet, then I'm allowed to water the whole thing, and so on. In a field that's naturally irrigated and has water flowing through it anyway, I'm not allowed to water at all.
Okay.
Right there. So it's within, when Karelitz is saying is when, in the cases that we've discussed, when the rabbis determined that this is a field that requires watering or there will be a great loss, then you don't have to calculate whether this watering or that watering, you're just allowed to water it.
Okay.
And Rav Karelitz continues, V'nira shedesha hasui le'noi, and it appears that what we call a lawn, things that are planted for beauty around the house, nechshav kebeis shlichim, this is considered the base of shlichim, shemuter lashkoso im hu tzamei l'mayim, that I'm allowed to water it if it's thirsty for water.
What did you say? Because it's considered something in Hebrew?
Base hashlichim, this is a field that's normally watered.
Okay.
Umihu, but bizmanim shebeis hashlichim eino tzricha hashkaya, but if it doesn't need watering right now, it's rain today, right? Literally rain today that we're making this video. Leka tera da hashkaya, I can't water it anymore. Da'achshav ein la shel beis hashlichim, because right now it's called not called a beis hashlichim, meaning when it's wet, it's not a beis hashlichim, because a beis hashlichim is a field that's normally dry. When it rains, I obviously can't, or if for whatever other reason it's been cloudy and the water hasn't evaporated, whatever it is, if it doesn't need water now, then I'm not allowed to water it. So these are the general guiding principles concerning watering. I can't deal with every conceivable type of agricultural field, but in terms of one's garden, which is for most of our concerns, we are allowed to water it in a way that the plants are not going to die during the Shemitah year, or that they won't become incredibly ugly.
Okay, at least the plants that are not annuals.
I don't care. Because many of the things you plant in the base of shlichim, they talk about planting vegetables in them, are annual plants. Nonetheless, I'm allowed to prevent them from dying by watering them. If this is a field that's always watered. So too, Rav Karelitz is saying, the garden around the house, the lawn around your house is something that's normally watered. Therefore, I'm allowed to continue watering it as long as it needs watering.
So you can keep your plants going.
You can keep your plants going.
Okay. And they're holy.
And well, some of them are. Flowers that are not generally used for a scent, they have no kedusha to them. Trees that don't produce fruit, they have no kedusha to them, and so on. But
all right, so it's the edibles and the ones that have a beautiful aroma, that have kedusha shvit, the sacredness of the Shvita year.
yes.
Shmita year. Okay. Happy Shmita.